Washington, going to British Columbia and Alaska. And I think that's my hop. And it's going to include, it's 2002, a Delta with real Delta pilots, actors. Who are the actors going to be? Are they going to be from the Screen Actors Guild, or are they going to be from the, no, seriously, are they going to be from the, from Able Danger? They're posing as passengers, and it's going to be hijacked by FBI agents posing as terrorists. Now you can see, when you have multiple levels of deception going into the same plane, how easy it is to turn that into something completely different if you have to. The FBI told Seymour Hersh that they were constantly simulating terrorist attacks before 9/11, including scenarios involving multiple plane hijackings. And some of them were apparently quite similar to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Well, they're preparing them, and they prepare, and they prepare, and then they flip it live, and it's real. There's even a drill in Shanksville, a special preparation for the first responders in that area. And it seems to be the idea that one of their main issues is to cordon off the site and make sure that nobody gets in. Perhaps the most damning of them all is the National Reconnaissance Office planes hitting buildings. Headline: top U.S. intelligence agency was to simulate plane crash into building on September 11th. Chantilly, Virginia, emergency response. Now this is the agency, it's a kind of a co-production of all the other spook agencies. They have the satellites, so they can see where all the planes are at any given time using their satellite imaging. You've got Booz Allen Hamilton involved. And I would submit that when it looks like planes into buildings, it means planes into buildings, and that this is not a drill, but this is the real thing. And you can see that NORAD had its own planes into buildings, including the World Trade Center, using numerous types of civilian and military aircraft, including hijacks coming from abroad. So the whole thing has been built. You think about Condoleezza Rice. Nobody ever thought. The Pentagon, 2000. Burning model airplane used at the Pentagon. Commercial airliner hits Pentagon. Another one planned but called off. Medics trained for a Boeing 757 hitting the Pentagon. Mass casualty exercise, plane hitting building. So it's just going on all the time. Richard Clark, one of the top bureaucrats of this entire thing, has a drill of a plane crashing into the White House in 1998. A Learjet packed with explosives was his version. Now, this is the face of the invisible government. He won the Academy Award for acting at those hearings. The government failed you. This was not a failure. This was exactly the project of the invisible government that this man represents. If you have martial law, you'll find him in a very, very prominent position. He ran the government on 9/11. Chemical weapons drills. Now, the last one, and I guess I'm going to have to end with this. On the cover of my book, why the mushroom cloud? Why not buildings collapsing? This is the aspect of what might have been. And it's Global Guardian, and it tells us that on the morning of 9/11, we had an Armageddon exercise going on, thermonuclear warfighting, called Global Guardian. And it means Cuban Missile Crisis, Red Alert, B-52s, B-1s, and all kinds of missiles. Headquarters is at Omaha, Nebraska. You've got the doomsday apparatus, the so-called night watch or looking glass aircraft, the flying command centers that are supposed to stay up there for a week or 10 days in case of nuclear war. It is a full Cold War confrontation posture before any hijackings involving these important Air Force bases. Notice that two of them are the destinations of Bush on the day of. He's got to go to Barksdale and he's got to go to Offutt. And here's the other back door, right? One idea is that the invisible government has the launch codes. The other thing is that Global Guardian has, built into the exercise, a back door. And the back door is attempts to penetrate the command using the internet. And a bad insider, a rogue, who had access to a key command and control system to launch. So here's another door where a rogue element actually could launch. And that is related to the ultimatum to Russia. I think we mentioned this. If you say we're taking Afghanistan and parts of Central Asia, suppose Putin says no. They are ready to escalate, and it doesn't involve Bush. Bush and Cheney will not have to make any decisions because the rogue network can do all of that by themselves. All these people are irrelevant. Of course, he's sitting there with his 5 heart attacks and 4 pacemakers, dead-eyed Dick. He's got his wife yammering that she wants to listen to CNN, so turn down the interagency briefing that's running the U.S. government. Not a good candidate to run anything. You've got the overall shift to worldwide sneak attack. That's called global strike. I think people are aware of this. Since last August, we've been operating on the idea that Cheney is looking for a new 9/11 as a pretext for an attack on Iran. Large-scale air assault on Iran with conventional and tactical nuclear weapons. This is from the American Conservative. And what the Independent International Truth Commission has done is to monitor these things with these kinds of websites. In particular, we focused on Charleston, South Carolina. There was such a furor, August 15th of last year, the local paper said, this chatter has stirred up folks all over the Low Country, worried that nuclear fallout could seriously ruin their weekend. And this is exactly what you want. This is what I appeal to you to do. And in a place like this, I think it would be quite feasible. If you learn of large-scale war and terror drills in your area involving weapons of mass destruction, atomic, bacteriological, chemical, you want to shut them down. You want them not to occur. We don't need them. They're expensive. They tie up traffic. If they go bad, they lead to genocide. So we don't want them in our backyard, do we? And this is an area where any honest ecologist, any anti-globalization activist would go along. So this one was actually shut down by citizen action. This was sudden response. It was based on, well, they try to make it more robust, and we try to add in fidelity. That begs the question, what's maximum fidelity for such a drill that the thing actually goes off? How about this? The gas dispensers in New York, 4 gas dispensers in Manhattan, August 8th of last year. Well, it's supposed to be colorless, odorless, and tasteless, except it stays in the area for 3,000 years. And what if a rogue comes along and says, let's take out that colorless, odorless, tasteless, and here we'll try some potassium cyanide and see how that works. Easy to do. And Cheney wants war with Iran. So Bush has said all options are on the table. Putin has responded last summer with his own threats. Lowering the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons is a dangerous trend. Somebody may feel tempted to use nuclear weapons. If that happens, the next step can be taken. More powerful nuclear arms can be used, which may lead to a nuclear conflict. This extremely dangerous trend is in the back of the mind of some politicians and military officials. Now that is a counter threat, I would submit, from somebody who is actually talking from a position of significant strength and telling Bush, don't do it. This is what we want to stop, and this is what 9/11 Truth can do. This is a Chechen terrorist living in Washington, D.C., paid for by your tax money. His name is Elias Akhmedov, and he gets money from the State Department, and his contribution has been to murder women and children at a hospital in the mid-90s. In other words, the war on terror is a fraud. The U.S. and the British run Chechen terrorism, and this man is living proof. And he is running around Washington, D.C. I always fear I'm going to meet him in the subway. Now finally, the appeal to the peace movement. Last summer, and it always happens, right, when Bush begins to bump along at the bottom of his 35% support window, he begins talking about what? He's got to defend the Iraq war, but his argument is pure 9/11. He has no Iraq argument. He only has the emotional appeal to generalized terror in the population based on 9/11. Philadelphia Inquirer, 9/11, the basis of the Iraq policy. And in the Washington Post, understated, the lessons of September 11th. Well, it's the Samuel Huntington clash of civilizations, endless war, first against Muslims, Arabs, then against China, ultimately Russia. These different powers in the world. This is the World War III, according to Huntington. You can see that India is lining up with the US. Japan is actually in this column over here at the present time. Russia, of course, is on the other side. We've got the Bernard Lewis plan in the Middle East, dividing Iraq into 3 parts. The plan is to divide Iran into 6 or 7 parts. Iranistan in the middle, and the rest of these things that we see. This is where Bernard Lewis of the British Arab Bureau comes in. I urge you to join in the drill monitoring at those websites that I was listing. And as Phil Berg says, we need a 9/11 deep throat. Charlie Sheen, the man of the hour. I wish I had a picture of A.J. Hammer, the great entertainment correspondent of Showbiz Tonight. These people have done more than the whole Democratic Party and the entire troop of left liberal gatekeepers and radical liberals. And remember, it was up to leftists to be the first out of the gate. Conservatives are going to be slower on these issues, and it turns out that the left liberals are the slowest of them all. They still haven't done a damn thing. So other than that, I commend my book to you, and I thank you for your kind attention.